Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 19 of Divergent Dialogues. This week, we are following on from our conversation last time, and we're talking about burnout in the workplace. I feel like I forgot a word, but
Burnout and self-care in the workplace.
Yeah.
Oh, that's all right. We'll keep it
Well,
real here.
kind of fitting because, I do feel those burnout vibes, and I guess I probably need to not forget about self-care.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, so I just wanted to start with a few I guess insights from the research. So autistic individuals face numerous employment barriers, which contribute to lower employment rates compared to the general population. So I think, well, I guess, in the past, particularly with our super deficit view of autistic people, whereby it's like, okay, well, autistic people, there's a low employment rate because autistic people, there's something inherently wrong with them and they're not able to hold down a job, or these are the sorts of views I guess people have had about autistic people. Whereas now, especially with the neurodivergent affirming movement and the understanding neurodiversity, we're coming to see more and more and more, and with autistic voices coming out as well, that it's actually that there's barriers in the workplace, or barriers to, it could even start in the job interview, or in the workplace, that are making it really difficult for autistic people to be able to gain and maintain employment.
Yeah, and similarly for ADHDers, it's a part of the diagnostic interview where they ask about how many jobs you've had, because it's a indication on some level when ADHDers have lost a lot of jobs, job hopped, all that sort of thing.
Well, I mean, I've had lots of jobs, but it's not because I've lost them. It's because I've got bored and wanted to do something
Yep.
different, which again is very ADHD.
Yeah. But it's the for a lot of ADHDers who unfortunately do lose their job, it's often because of the working environment that isn't sort of suited. Like I know as an ADHDer, especially a female ADHDer with a menstrual cycle, that certain parts of the month I've got bucket loads of energy, and my brain is sharp and I can smash out, more work than I could imagine. But then as my estrogen depletes and my dopamine dries up, I just turn into mashed potato, and I struggle. I struggle to get through the bare necessities of the week. And I think that, yeah, for ADHDers who, I guess, in workplaces that can't accommodate those varying energy levels, and work with that, it can be really hard. It can be really hard.
Yeah. And you're exactly right. Our capacity, and especially with executive functioning, it does fluctuate. As you said, I'm the same. Like some days I'm, on fire and I can do all this stuff, and other days it's really hard. What do I say? It's like trying to get thoughts through cement. Like that's how it feels to me. It's just like it's like there's a thought there, I think, but I just can't get it to connect to the other things and what's going on. Yep.
Yep.
So I guess, like, I think I'm really lucky in the work I've chosen, because I think I've really played to my strengths, whereby, like, I can have a chat. I mean, obviously, like, therapy is much more than just having a chat, but you know what I mean? Like, it's a lot less taxing for me to turn up and run a tutorial or have a session with someone, and I'm with that verbal communication. I guess that's what I'm saying. That's probably better.
Yeah.
Obviously there's a lot of mental processes that are going on at the same time. Whereas for me, sitting down and having to write notes or reports or things like that, that really drains my executive functioning. And like I kind of have to choose my days and times to, I guess, do those things. So like with my notes, I'm usually pretty good. I can smash those out, even though I'm like sitting there like trying to force my brain to do it. But yeah, I think if you play to your strengths, it can really help when obviously in your job there's going to be aspects that might be a little bit more challenging or might be a bit more boring and whatever, but if the bulk of it is something that comes quite easy to you, even on your really challenging days, it's still going to be a little bit easier.
Yeah, and if we're talking about trying to prevent burnout, I think it's really important to acknowledge those fluctuating energy levels, because when we are trying to maintain this like consistent sort of level of energy output every day, every week, over and over again, and we're not in a space that is geared towards our special interest, or like it's for ADHD, as if the job is a bit repetitive and a bit boring, then we're going to hit burnout pretty quickly. I love what I do. I've built my business around my special interests, who I am, what I need, all of those sorts of things. But I do sort of run into these like feelings of burnout when everything starts to become a bit routine.
Yeah.
And it can be a bit frustrating, because it feels like I use my leave to like re-energize myself just so I can do it all again, as opposed to being able to take a week off just because I want to go and do some exciting, fun holiday thing. That can feel a bit frustrating sometimes. But I try really hard to put in like long weekends throughout the year, which can sort of help buffer some of that that exhaustion, and keeping things interesting, bringing in new projects or something that sparks that I don't know, interest, can really help as well to re-energize.
Yeah, and I was just thinking like it's all a learning process, but I think back to past jobs where I was an employee, and this was before I was diagnosed as well, and I would just look around at everybody else, and I worked in the mental health space, so it's a pretty high, just for anyone in general, it's a pretty high burnout space. But even so, I'd kind of look around, I'd be like, oh, everyone seems to be coping a lot better than me. And when I guess, how do I say this? Obviously I can cope with all this stuff, but I think it's just the burnout. I would just seem to get this fatigue and be kind of confuddled in my brain. And I remember now, like, because I used to work quite far away from where I live, so I'd have to drive for like an hour, be at work all day, highly masking everything, come home, and like there's a few times where like I would just like have a complete meltdown, like I'm kind of driving home and there's traffic and everything, and I'm trying really hard to not have a meltdown. I didn't realize that that's what it was at the time, but
Yeah.
just having to mask all day, and you're always like you're on, like you always feel like you're on. And like now, my office is like a 15-minute drive.
Yeah.
I have my own office, so like sensory wise, like heaps of control around that. And yeah, it's just so amazing. But like I just remember when I was an employee, I would really beat myself up. Like I would beat myself up because, as I said, I'd look around and I'd be like, oh, well, I'm not coping as well as everyone else. So that must be a me problem. And I'm like, there just must be something inherently wrong with me. And then after I got my autism diagnosis, I was like, oh, okay, that that makes a lot more sense. And obviously that ADHD diagnosis as well. Like I remember my I used to work in a like forensic mental health facility, and it was like a high acuity unit. And the unit that I worked on, it was like this echo chamber. It had like these two like different wings, and it just echoed, and I was really struggling going on to the ward. I was like feeling really burnt out, and like for me, when I feel more burnt out, sensory overwhelm is a bigger struggle. And I was just like, I was just really struggling, and I was just like, oh my gosh, am I like avoiding my clients? And although the clients that I worked with, like, you know, there could be challenging interpersonal dynamics sometimes, but generally we found a way to connect and whatever. And I thought, I'm like, oh my gosh, I this like terrible like social worker who like doesn't want to see their clients. But now I look back now and I'm like, no, it's because I was avoiding this sensory overwhelm every time I walked onto the ward. So that helped me to feel a lot better, because I was just so confused by what was happening. It just didn't make sense to me.
Yeah, it is interesting when you start to learn about like look back and see how your undiagnosed autism and ADHD were impacting. Similarly, driving an hour to work, being there all day, highly masking, and then driving home, having the same experience, looking around, everyone else seems to be managing this so much better than I am. They're coping better than I am. And I internalized that as a sign that I wasn't quite good enough to be in that job role, and that maybe I was, I don't know, tricking everyone, and I'd somehow faked my way into the job. Was I really qualified? Oh my goodness, I need to leave. You're not good enough. But yeah, understanding how autism and ADHD were actually a huge part of that feeling incompetent, because the environment just wasn't suitable for me because of open plan offices and like some parts of the job where, at a moment's notice, you've got to get up and leave the office to go somewhere else. And it's like, oh, hang on, I had my day planned out. I had my week planned out, and now my schedule's disrupted and I'm uncomfortable. So it's managing all of these things, and being aware of them can help prevent burnout.
Yeah.
But also understanding that our energy levels are different, and what energizes us is different. So it's okay to say, I can't work a 40-hour week, Monday to Friday, 9 to 5, if that's beyond your capacity.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, sorry, you go.
Oh no, so I struggle to, I can do a Monday to Friday, but 2 days are always non-interactive. 3 days a week interacting with people is my absolute maximum.
Unless it's me.
Oh yeah. Because this is my non-interactive day.
Yes, yeah, sorry, you're interacting. But yeah, but like a little while ago I realized that, because like whenever people ask me, oh, what do you do? I have to kind of pick and choose what I say, because I do so many things. Because I get a lot out of that and I really enjoy it, and variety helps to keep me motivated. But in my whole life, I've only worked full time for 2 years, and that almost killed me. Yep. I was in the biggest burnout, and it resulted in me leaving that job and starting my business, which I mean worked out really well. But yeah, after I finished my master's. Teena and I actually met through a graduate program in mental health, working for the mental health government, state government. And it was full time, and then I secured a permanent part-time 4-day role, but I still stuck in the grad program 1 day a week. And then when I went back to 4 days, that did help. But yeah, even then a lot of people were like, oh, well, you'll lose money. I was like, well, it's that, or like being really physically and mentally unwell. So, you got to do a balance. But yeah, so I think like looking from the outside, people would probably go, oh, wow, like Caitlin is so successful and does all these things and blah, 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 blah. But it's like, yeah, but I can't work full time. Like I do not have the capacity to work full time, and I'm okay with that because I'm in a position where I earn a wage where I can afford to work part time and still be able to pay for this rising cost of living situation that we're all living in right now. But yeah, I can't, like, I know I do not have the capacity to work full time.
Yeah, me either. Absolutely not. And yeah, I guess there's lifestyle adjustments. If I did have capacity to work full time, and the interactive stuff, then yeah, maybe I would have a better house, a better car, better holidays, whatever. But I will take the life that I have because it is much easier to manage.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And luckily for me, I don't put like a super high value on money. Like obviously you need enough so that you're not starving. But yeah, I think it's just sometimes you do have to adjust your lifestyle to I guess how much you can work and the money that you can make. But yeah, I think there's a lot of people that have been really struggling at the moment with or at least in Australia, I don't know what it's like elsewhere, but it's just things just keep getting more and more expensive. And especially in Brisbane where we live, because during COVID, a lot of people moved here, so the housing here is like ridiculous. And anyway, that's a whole other podcast.
We've also got some of the most expensive parking in the world. Just
really?
a fact. Yeah.
Parking?
Yeah, parking. Yeah.
It is like just everywhere, like council, or like what do you mean by parking?
So yeah, like parking stations and things like that.
Yeah.
In Brisbane, to park your car, it's one of the most expensive cities in the world to park your car.
I can attest to that. It's ridiculous. Anyway, that's a whole different podcast. But but fun fact to know.
Yes.
Fun fact to know. It's a very autistic fact. Oh yeah. So
I might say it's cheaper to get a parking fine than it is to park in a parking station. Not saying that that's advice or anything, but Yeah,
I reckon. Yeah. So I guess just what I wanted to convey is that, like, even as we're both business owners, we have various jobs, do a lot of things, but even so, like, we do have some limitations and we've had to make adjustments, and it's this big learning journey that I've had for myself. And after I got my diagnosis, like, I had to look at my life, and I still do it now. Like, as I said in the previous episode, I'm on leave next week, and every time I go on leave, I have to kind of do a bit of a reflection and go, okay, what can I do? What can I implement in order to reduce burnout? Because I usually take a week off every 3 months, but as I inch closer to that, I'm feeling really burnt out. And obviously I want to be the best me for my clients and for the students that I teach as well. So I guess that's a really good segue into self-care, which is also what we're talking about today. So yeah, Teena, I'll put you on the spot. What do you do for, like, especially in relation to work, like during the day when you're working, do you have particular self-care or things that you do?
Yeah. So when I am in my 3 days a week, when I am sort of in my clinic space and seeing clients, I make sure I take an hour for lunch, and I close my door and I spend that hour sort of just doing whatever I want. Self-care it's so marketed to us to look like massages and facials and cocktails and holidays on the beach, all these sorts of things, which can, for neurodivergent people, yeah, they're nice, don't get me wrong, but that's certainly not the kind of self-care that rejuvenates me.
Yeah.
So getting to know what really does energize you and what self-care looks like for you is really important, because for me, simply in that hour on my lunch break, doing a little bit of work on my PhD, that's energizing for me because it's exciting and fun. And you know, sometimes I like to come home and watch really interesting bad reality TV. Because it provides me with mental rest. You know, I don't need to think about anything, but it's interesting enough to kind of go, OMG, did that just happen?
Yeah, it's enough toxic drama to feed
Yeah.
the
But without any thinking. So yeah, getting to know what your self-care is, what that actually means to you is really helpful.
Yeah, I think I probably do a few different things. So on my private practice days, like I have my morning routine. You know, I make sure I have like I make my lunch, I have breakfast, everything. I make sure I'm fed and watered. And then I'm similar, like I have 3 clients and then an hour break, and then I have 3 clients, and then like I usually have like half an hour to an hour afterwards as well. I find that works for my brain. Some people, they might have like more time in between clients, but I find for my brain, having 3, smashing out my notes and everything, and having my lunch and then doing that, because I guess for me with my ADHD brain, I need like a deadline or a time limit. Otherwise I'll just be like, oh whoa, what's, you know, anything else. But something that I find really important is meeting my sensory needs, and not just the sensory soothing, but also the alerting type stuff as well. So like I'm a chewer. So I have, what are they called, the toothpicks, and
Yeah,
like
yeah.
I'll like chew on those, or you know, like having like a sour lolly or something to just kind of alert me a little bit can be really helpful.
I
And
have citrus. Oh, can you see it? Citrus flavored drinks.
oh,
Okay, I'll drink it.
oh yeah, the drinks. I always make sure I have lunch or I have food. And like I always have like my water bottle with me as well. So you know, I guess as autistic ADHDers, we can have that tendency to have those interoceptive challenges, not picking up on these cues. So just having snacks and food and everything readily available, you know, I guess keeping us fueled up. Something that I also do is when, especially when I'm teaching, I have on my lanyard, I'll have some fidgets and I'll walk around the room. I find the movement really regulating as well.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. The movement is good, and I think having my office set up, like I've got lots of plants in my office, so
Yeah.
it's nice and green, and it's just got a cozy sort of vibe to it. That is sensory wise, that's really soothing for me to have all those kind of earthy, neutral colors, and I have the oil burner as well, which is really helpful. Helpful as well. So self-care is kind of embedded into my environment.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. And I guess like for those that aren't privileged and lucky like we are to have our own businesses where we can heavily accommodate ourselves and have space for self-care, you know, it's like something I always say is make sure you take your breaks. Like it's so
Go where
important.
you want. Don't feel forced to go to the bloody lunchroom.
Yes. Just that times 100. Yeah, I think, but it's true. A lot of people, like I've had chats with my clients, and it's like they feel a social obligation to do that. And like I've said to them, like, look, you know, maybe every once in a while you can do that, but you don't have to. And you know, for some people they might go for a walk. or they might, they might go outside and sit in the sun and have their lunch, or even if like if you're into mindfulness, like doing a short little mindfulness. But it's really important to be able to regulate yourself so that you can come back. So like if you have lunch at lunchtime, you're busy morning, have some space to relax and regulate, and then hopefully you'll be able to kind of get things done in the afternoon, or whatever your schedule is. But it's like, I think sometimes people have this mentality of like, oh, I'll just push it all, I'll push through, and then like it'll just be easier. And it's like, well, I mean, I can speak from my own lived experience that that's not the case. We do need time to regulate and rest so that we can get back into this space where we can engage in whatever it is we need to do.
Yeah. And from an ADHD perspective, I think that sometimes when you're in the zone and lunchtime rolls around, it can be dysregulating to have to stop and then go away, do something else, and then re-engage. So being able to, because it's difficult to regulate our attention. So there is a risk if I disengage, I'm not going to be able to re-engage. Yeah. So if I go and spend an hour in the park or whatever, then that's where I'm going to be for the rest of the day. So again, like as we spoke about in our last episode, like knowing your where your energy's at, and like how your brain's working on any particular day, that I sometimes find it better to stop and eat, but then keep going with my work and maybe finish a little bit earlier for the day, or take another break a bit later on in the day when that hard task that I was sort of focused on has been complete.
Yeah. I think another thing that's important is working within the hours that you're getting paid for. Unfortunately, there can be some workplaces where there's this unspoken rule or this culture of, oh, we don't take our lunch breaks and we all do overtime. And I always say to my clients, I'm like, look, you've got to be brave, because you're going against the social norm, the established norm. But I also say to them, like, you could be like the person who's standing up and advocating, and through advocating for yourself, other people might go, oh, okay, maybe I can take my lunch break, or maybe I can leave early, well, not early, on time. Because if there's this norm in the workplace that we do these things and everyone keeps doing it, well, it's not going to change. And it can be hard to be that brave person, because like I remember when I worked in my previous job, there was an option. You could have accrued RDOs, which is like I can't remember what it's called. They like acronyms, but basically like you'd work an extra half an hour each work day, and then have like this accrued day off. And my original contract didn't have that. And then they're like, oh, do you want to have that? I was like, no, I'd actually just rather leave half an hour early. Like I was still within my paid hours, but anyway, so like, no, I'd rather just do that. And then I remember that I would leave at my time that I'm meant to, and like there'd just be people like looking at me out of the corner of their eye from their desk, like judging me, thinking that I was leaving early. And I was like, I'm not gonna like justify myself to all these people going, oh no, I'm allowed to. I was just like, whatever. Like if you want to think that, you can go for your life. But unfortunately, there are these people who like they just, I don't know, maybe they don't have enough work to do, so they're kind of being a bit nosy. But it can be hard when you have that kind of people pleasing type stuff going on.
Yeah. And I have an experience that was actually in direct opposition to what you experienced. Like I'd been working on one team, and the hours were like I think 7:30 till 4 p.m. or something like that. And then I moved to a different team in the same organization, and the hours were like a bit different. It was like 7 till 4 or something like that. And I I didn't realize that there was that difference. And so I, like, the first sort of month in this job, first couple of weeks in this job, I was just getting up and leaving at 3:30 every day, and no one batted an eyelid. No one said anything to me. And then something was brought to my attention that we didn't actually finish until 4. And I went to my team leader, my boss, and I'm like, OMG, I'm so sorry. I've been leaving early all this time. And no one noticed. No one said anything about me leaving half an hour before I was meant to.
Oh, clearly you had a nicer, more supportive place. No, this particular workplace.
Either that or I was completely invisible in the workplace.
Yeah. But it's just like, you can just like feel people looking at you, and you that it's not just in your mind, like you literally see them. They're just like got their little judgy eyes on. And I'm like, well, whatever. Like, I mean, but that's another thing is like, if you do ask for workplace accommodations, like you might have different work hours. And you, like, if people aren't aware that you're an autistic ADHD, unfortunately people do make these sorts of judgments. They'll be like, oh well, they're just slacking off and leaving early, where it might be something that you might have an arrangement with your boss or your team leader or HR or whatever. So again, comes back to this awareness of like I just think fundamentally having flexibility in the workplace is something that's helpful and important for everyone. Like even if people don't have a disability, they have children or pets or like people have lives outside of work. So I'm not an employer, but if I did employ people, I'd just be like, well, as long as you're getting you're doing your hour. Well, actually, I do employ someone. I employ very part-time. I have my sister who helps with some of like my online stuff. I totally forgot that. Very ADHD. But like I just say to her, I'm just like, it's only a few hours, but I'm just like, well, as long as you do your hours and as long as the work gets done, like I don't really care how, when, whatever. Like I'm happy to be super flexible, because for me, having lots of flexibility is something that's really important to me and really helps. So I like to provide other people that opportunity as well.
Yeah, I think so too. And I think, understanding how like asking for some of those accommodations can be a self-care practice.
Yeah.
So you are getting your needs met.
Yeah. It can be hard though.
Yes.
Anxiety inducing. Yeah. But like if if you have an accredited mental social worker or a psychologist or an OT or speechy or whatever, if you're feeling a bit nervous about it, sometimes they might be able to write like a letter of support or something like that. Sometimes HR or organizations might ask for that anyway. And like you might just be able to find, I guess, the language to be able to advocate for yourself.
Yeah.
But also like if you need more support, like I can't speak for overseas and things like that, but like in Australia there's Fair Work, and that employers do have to provide accommodations that are reasonable and things like that. So sometimes you might need external help to, I guess, get some of these things over the line as well.
Yeah, and to understand what can be accommodated, because workplaces are all different as well. So yeah,
cool. I'm getting the sense that we're burnt out from this conversation.
Well, I'm just about to head away on a self-care weekend with my partner. We're going to go hiking and sit in the middle of nowhere with lots of trees, and it's going to be amazing.
Yeah, this is the last work-related thing I'm doing before I go on my leave. So yeah, I'm my brain's like, in body I'm here, but in brain I'm But yeah, we really enjoy recording these episodes, and I enjoy it when people reach out and let us know that they're enjoying the podcast and things like that. So yeah, thank you for spending your time with us and listening, and yeah, we'll hopefully tune in next time.
Until next time.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.